Welcome to the Max Forti Chat. I am Max Forti. I'm proudly joined by brand founder and creative director Dimitri Weber. He is Belgium-born, a perfumer who moved to Australia back in 2015 after having worked in the French fragrance industry for over 25 years. Goldfield&Banks was born to pay tribute to the land down under, and you can find a lot of the nature's and landmark ingredients featured in their fragrance creations, including the most predominant to the particular regions and landmark of Australia, such as the latest creation, Bohemian Lime, which features the finger lime that's native of Australia. So welcome, Dimitri Weber, to the Max Forti Podcast. How you doing today? How are things going down under?
Good evening, Max. Cheers from Sydney. It's 10 o'clock at night, so I'm having my last glass of wine. Lovely to see you.
Nice to see you. It's been a minute. I think the last time we saw each other was back in April of last year at a son's in Italy.
Absolutely. It's been way too long, and I miss it actually. I miss going to Milan. Miss traveling just in general. I mean, we're stuck here on an island, but a big island.
A beautiful big island.
Gorgeous
Australia is
big
just
island.
gorgeous.
We're very fortunate, and I have to say we were very, very fortunate and blessed to be confined in this country rather than, being confined in a big city or so. Yeah, we had the ocean just, at 100 meters from my unit, so it was good.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
So thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking the time to be in here at the Max Forti Chat. We're going to talk a little bit about Goldfield&Banks, of course, and we're going to learn a little bit more about Dimitri Weber, the man himself. So I want to ask you a few questions here. But before we do that, as it's customary here to the Max Forti Chat, what is your scent of the day? What are you wearing today? What is your scent of the evening? What are you wearing today or this evening?
Oh my God, I've been wearing wood infusion today because my partner took my Bohemian Lime bottle from the bathroom. So he left for a couple of days. So he left me without Bohemian Lime. But what I did is when I was in the office today, I took a new bottle. So I have it with me right now. But I've been wearing wood infusion today and a mix of a new fragrance that we're releasing next year.
Nice, nice. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm actually just wearing aftershave. It's actually morning here. It's about 10 p.m., right? Australian time. And it is 8 a.m. for me here in New York time. So because we're in a 14-hour difference, I'm actually just wearing aftershave, brute aftershave. But I'll be definitely wearing some fragrances later today that I'm
Wow.
testing for reviewing purposes. But first things
That's
first, what's that?
very vintage. Brut de
I
Fabergé,
love
is
it.
that it?
Yes, that's
Oh
it.
my
I
God,
love
it's
it.
amazing. It's
Love it.
amazing.
My father used to wear it. I wear it now. I used to think it was too old school, but now I find myself going back to the
Mm,
classics. Love it.
absolutely. It's a fougere fragrance, isn't it?
Bit of
Very
fougere, green,
real.
lavender. Yep, yep.
Yeah. Wow, wonderful.
So for somebody hearing for the first time the word Goldfield&Banks, now this is going to be a two-part question, Dimitri. I want you to
Mhm.
tell us, number one, why Goldfield&Banks? Why the name Goldfield&Banks? It sounds like a real estate agency or something like that. And number two, or like a lawyer firm. And number two, describe the brand and what it stands for. So it's like a two-part question.
Right. So first of all, Goldfield and Banks, the name. Well, one of our key ingredients in the country and one of the most iconic ingredients in our industry is obviously sandalwood. And we have two types of sandalwood in Australia. We have the Indian sandalwood, and we have obviously the native Australian Santalum spicatum. And believe it or not, but the tree here in Australia, which we find prim, primarily in Western Australia, grows on fields of gold.
Wow.
Hence the name Goldfield. So Goldfield, I mean, Australia is very rich in gold, as you know, very rich in a lot of other resources and raw materials. And I just when I heard about the story about the fact that the tree grows on fields of gold and you really need to have the gold in the soil in order to have the tree growing, I found it absolutely fascinating. And I thought, oh my God, this is just unbelievable because that was unheard of. And then banks, which has nothing to do with a bank or financial or anything. Banks refers to Joseph Banks, who was a botanist who came to Australia with Captain Cook in the 18th century. And he was basically the first person to actually introduce to the European society what was eucalyptus, what was wattle, and all the native Australian flora and the native flora from a lot of other countries and islands around Australia. So for us, he's a very important man. And for me, my brand, Goldfield&Banks, my fragrances are absolutely a tribute to him because without him, we wouldn't have been there today, I think. So a lot of parks carry his name in London as well, and here. And so yeah, Joseph Banks, he's quite a famous man. And then the second part, you were asking me about what Goldfield&Banks stands for. First of all, it stands for the fact that we pay a tribute to the extraordinary beauty of the country with our brand. And then secondly, the brand celebrates also its botanical richness because you might not know Australia. You probably haven't traveled to Australia. But for me, being here since 6 years, we discover and still, I wouldn't say every day, but very often we discover new species, new wood species, new flowers, new fruits and pods and seeds and barks and leaves and anything. So it's an extremely rich country. So the brand Goldfield&Banks it's all about the land. It's all about the soil. And that's what it resonates. So yeah, so it's definitely something you would almost think that the brand is probably 200 years old.
So the brand was actually founded in 2015.
No, it was actually launched in 2016, in November 2016. I launched it on my birthday, which was fabulous. And then
When is your
we
birthday?
actually started on the 9th of November.
Oh, very nice. My wife is the 6th, so I like Scorpios.
That's it. Scorpio is the best. And then we officially launched the brand in January 2017. So 3.5 years ago, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, time flies.
I know, right? So 2016 to 2020 and 8 creations in the bag. So you have 8 fragrances in your portfolio right now,
Yeah,
in which my current favorite is Desert Rosewood. I absolutely love that fragrance.
beautiful. Yeah.
Um, so looking back, how can you really describe your portfolio? You have a little bit of everything. You have a lot of different genres and styles. In your
Mm.
eyes, is it something, number one, in the works right now? And number two, what do you think you're missing? Is there a certain specific, genre or style of fragrance that you're looking to add on to the portfolio?
Well, the thing is that in our 8 fragrances, we cover a little bit almost all the olfactive families. The thing is that we have a lot of restrictions, obviously, because every single fragrance highlights one particular key ingredient that is a native of Australia. And so that already is very restrictive because I want every single fragrance to smell that key ingredient, which is that Australian native ingredient. So of course, I'd love to have different type of other scents, like having a great gourmand in the collection and fragrances like that. But for the moment, we keep it very basic in the sense that we are true to our values, true to what we believe in, and we believe in those Australian native ingredients. So we have fresh. I think people are going to call us now the king of fresh fragrances. But we have a few fresh fragrances with Pacific Rock moss, and then with Bohemian Lime, and then we have woody fragrances with wood infusion, Desert Rosewood, um, White Sandalwood. So we
Blue
really have
Cypress is great too. Blue Cypress is beautiful. Also
yeah,
aromatic,
I know.
fresh.
Yeah, well, and you love Brut, so obviously you'd love a bit of lavender. But we have so yeah, I think we have a variety of fragrances, and it takes me a year to come up with a new scent and all of that. So but we have floral fragrances as well. We have Southern Bloom, which is very rich, with a very exclusive ingredient, which is Baronia. We have Velvet Splendor with a lot of incense and wattle. They're very different, very distinctive. But the thing what I really found very interesting and extremely important is that I really want my customers to be happy and to feel comfortable when they smell and when they wear my fragrances. So I don't want them to feel that my fragrances are overpowering. I want them to be, subtle, and people feel comfortable and feel confident. And that's what we are experiencing now, is that we have a lot of customers these days. They don't want to use fragrances that are too overpowering or um, too heady. So when living in Australia, if you would come to Australia, you would understand that this is not the country where you would wear a very deep, heavy, heady scent. So every single fragrance is perfect for any condition, like for in humid weather. We have a big country here. We live in a big country, so we have different climates, we could say. Like it can be cold here in Sydney, and then it's 30 degrees in Broome, which is, on the top end of the Northern Territories. Um, so we have fragrances for every single occasion, and especially fragrances for all seasons. And this is what Goldfield&Banks, the collection, this native collection, is all about.
Cool. Now, you said before, we got started, you said you are currently also working on something. So is there something you want to share with the listeners? Do you have any current projects that you're working on for a new release? And when do you plan on perhaps adding that ninth,
Mm.
release?
Exactly. So we are very fortunate that we came across a company based in Perth, Western Australia, but they also have, now obviously they have their plantations in Queensland, in the tropics, in the rainforest, in the Daintree rainforest. And these people, called Westcorp, the company is called Westcorp. They harvest the first ever sustainable agarwood in
Wow.
Australia. So, which means that the agarwood plantations and anything, that every single process, everything they do with the agarwood plantations and the production of the wood is 100% sustainable. So there is no child labor involved. All the conditions are perfect because it's in the rainforest, and they all work with their hands, and it's the environment in which they work is extremely sustainable. And we met. They invited me and my partner to spend a weekend with them, in the middle of the plantations of agarwood, and we've learned so much. So we were very fortunate to meet these people, and they offered us the opportunity to smell and to discover and to learn more about the art of harvesting and producing agarwood in Australia. Can you imagine? Like, it has nothing to do with
Wow.
the Middle East. And today we have this beautiful quality of agarwood from Australia, which is more wearable, which is more balmy and more subtle than, the very heavy Middle Eastern uh, uh, um, agarwood. And so this is a key ingredient that we are using in a new collection that we are bringing out. So next to our existing collection, we are going into another direction with a new type of collection, in which we will use very rare and extremely expensive, very sustainable ingredients. So this is what it's going to be all about new ingredients that are not necessarily native to this country, but where people have had the opportunity to integrate and to add and to bring in the seeds in the country, which is another issue, to bring in the seeds in the country and to grow other types of wood species, flowers, and fruits. Why not? So, and
Sounds
this is very
amazing.
exciting.
So,
Mm.
so fans of the brand can expect to see some beautiful Oriental collection coming up, featuring an oud that is native to Australia.
Yeah, but a very wearable oud, a very and a beautiful, super long lasting, but at the same time, it's such an enjoyable fragrance. It's a fragrance that is really, we've been wearing it obviously in the office, and my colleague is wearing it as well, and it's I can say it's a absolutely beautiful scent, and we were lucky enough to work with Firmenich, as you know the perfume companies,
Sure.
and Firmenich was very excited to work on this project because we obviously needed to find, as you know, we combined the French methodology with, Australian native ingredients, and key ingredients coming from here. So and yeah, so this is it's a great opportunity, and it's such a challenging project, but we love it. We absolutely love it. It's been postponed, obviously, with all COVID-19. We were supposed to present it in Milan, but now we postponed it to early next year.
I'm excited though. I can't wait to try it. It sounds
Mm,
terrific. I'm very excited.
yeah.
So let's go back a little bit now and let's talk about, the years of the French perfume brands that you worked with for over 25 years. Just a
Mm,
little dab. Let's talk about Yves Saint Laurent. Let's talk about Shiseido. I know you were involved
yeah.
in Baby Doll, right? You were involved in that fragrance with Yves Saint Laurent. Can you maybe highlight some of your favorite projects that you've had with those brands in the past?
Well, first of all, I was very young and I worked in a training department, uh, commerce training department, and I was very young. I mean, and still today, when I think about this period, the early 90s, 93, 94, 95. These were the years where, I mean, he was still alive, the designer, and he was still quite involved in some of the fragrance projects. And you could feel the soul of the designer in the fragrances because obviously today, all these big brands, those designers are not alive anymore. They've been taken over by all the young designers. But in some of the projects in which they were involved, whether it is Christian Dior or the YSL when they were still alive, you can feel the soul in those products and still today. And I like that. I'm actually very happy and very blessed and grateful that I was active and working in those days where designers were still alive and still active in the development of their new sense, not so much in makeup and all that, because that was very marketing, but in fragrances and whenever there was a new release, they were very much involved, which was great. So,
And is there any fragrances back in those days in the 90s that you can think of that you were somewhat involved in the process, the creative process?
oh, no, no, I was not involved in those creative processes. What we did is launching the fragrances, which was actually probably a more interesting and a more exciting phase, the launch and seeing something, the birth of a fragrance is always extremely exciting. And that was probably, I've been so blessed in my career. That's what I did. We launched fragrances for different brands many years. We used to work with massive budgets, which is not the case anymore because obviously when you launch your own brand, you work with smaller budgets. Um, but it was amazing. I mean, like it's fragrances like a Vice Versa. I'm not sure if you remember Vice Versa and a fragrance like Baby Doll. Um, and then there
My
was
wife actually
Jazz.
still wears Baby Doll.
Yeah, right. And then there was a Jazz Live. There were all these new products like Body Kuros came out in those days. And then what happened is obviously the company got sold to Gucci, and then Tom Ford took over, and then they obviously launched. That was in 2000, and then they launched fragrances such as M7. I don't know if you remember it, a
Love it.
very beautiful
Love it.
agarwood scent. Yeah, exactly, absolutely beautiful. And so little by little, I mean, yeah, that's 25 years of career working with beautiful brands. I moved on afterwards to Shiseido Group with launches like Narciso Rodriguez and Jean-Paul Gaultier, and we were happy and very excited to work, with those brands because that's where I learned everything. After 25 years, we the fact that we were in training department and PR and communication enabled me to touch and to be involved in a little bit of everything. Later down the track, I used to work with different other brands like Cartier, where I was consultant and where we would discuss with marketing teams, what would be the next thing. And um, so it was a beautiful period. Things have changed, and thank God in a way. Niche has taken over big time, and of course, I have my own brand today. So,
Sure.
and this was probably the best move for me. For yeah.
Without a doubt. So tell us a little bit of, let's get personal now with Dimitri. Tell us a little bit about the day in the life of Dimitri. I see right now you're unwinding, you're drinking a glass of wine, it's nighttime. What is a day like of Dimitri? Do you go to an office in the morning? Do you work
Oh
out? Do you have
yeah.
like a regimen? Tell us about the day in
Mm.
the life, a normal day in the life of Dimitri.
A normal day in the life of Dimitri. Well, I get up early in the morning around 6:30, 6:37. I go for a run. I mean, we're on the coast here, on the beach. So I go for a run. I go for a big walk after that. I do exercise. Sometimes I do my yoga. I do yoga at home now, especially with COVID-19. We do more exercises at home. And then I go to the office. And basically, I go to the office and I stay there until, I don't know, 8:30. Go home, continue to work until I'm going to sleep, quick a shower, eat and go to sleep. That's basically it. I mean, it's not very exciting, of course, because we don't travel. But usually, of course, when I travel, I mean, we train people, we have meetings, um, we go and check out our suppliers, we meet our suppliers of raw materials in the different parts of the country. But all of this will come back obviously in a few months. I mean, and I think now in another 10 days we are able to travel to Queensland. So I might go back to the Daintree rainforest and check out the agarwood plantations and meet up again with the people. And so yeah, so this is the thing. I mean, this is what I do. There's, when you have your own company, there's so much involved, and we're a small team. It's the three of us, and then sometimes and of course we have our accountant and we have our PR, and so we are a group of 5, 6 people working hand in hand, and yeah, it's very intense. I can tell you that.
Cool. So, from all the ingredients that you've worked with so far, from all the 8 creations that you've had with Goldfield&Banks, now you're working with agarwood. Now, is there any other particular ingredient that you would love to work perhaps in the future, that is maybe in the near future or in the far future? Is there any particular ingredient that you haven't yet worked with that you would like to work with or highlight?
Well, I've worked with Buddha wood oil, the one that is in desert rosewood, which is a fabulous fragrance. I shouldn't be saying that because, I mean, I love all my fragrances, but desert rosewood, and I have a special bond with desert rosewood because it's based on that Buddha wood oil, and there is something special about that oil because it's very difficult to combine and to blend with anything else. And I would like to explore that ingredient a little bit more in the future. But then obviously we have other limes, like we have a desert lime as well, which I would like to explore as well. And so we will be working probably with Givaudan, because Givaudan, we have been working with Givaudan to create Bohemian lime, based on finger lime. And you smelled it, right? Isn't that just
Oh, I
fabulous?
love it.
This
Yes, I
this
love it.
this fragrance is just
Absolutely
unbelievable. I
gorgeous.
mean, yeah, yeah,
Refreshing,
it's
energizing, invigorating, pleasant, fun, sparkling. Just great.
absolutely.
Great
Yeah, no,
scent.
no, it makes me in a good mood in the morning when I wear it. So it's absolutely beautiful. But next to finger lime, we have also desert lime, which is another native. So there's a lot of native, especially with the indigenous people. There's a lot of native spices, and so there's definitely a few things that I really would like to work on. Yeah, absolutely.
You guys have passion fruit in Australia? Passion fruit?
Yeah, oh my God, tons of them.
I
We
would
have a
love to
lot of
see
passion fruit.
I'd love to see a fruity, citrus aromatic kind of a fragrance with a lot of tropical fruits that are, indigenous and popular
Mm.
in Australia. I think that would be really, really nice. But
Yeah, I discovered something really beautiful. I should send you a picture one day. In the Daintree rainforest, we have I forgot the name. It's called a fig. It's a native Australian fig, and it's white. And the cassowaries, those big birds, those big
wow,
ancient birds, they eat them, and it smells it's quite sweet. Not very similar to the fig smell, but it's probably a little bit more powdery. And I discovered that recently because they grow on trees. Those fruits grow on the trunks of the trees like
wow.
crazy. Yeah, no, no. So there's a lot of
Be something,
and then obviously
something.
we have mangoes everywhere here. We have coconut. We have obviously they're not native, but there's a lot of those things in the tropics and in the north that are absolutely beautiful. And I'd love to have a fruity a fruity fragrance, but it has to be a good one. So that's why I'm checking out the desert lime and yeah. So yeah. it's probably going to be one of my next projects. I'm a bit
Cool.
lazy for the moment. I mean, I've been working so hard on a lot of other things, and especially, the new fragrance that's coming up with the agarwood that I haven't been working hard on
Sure.
a new scent in our native collection.
So I guess you said that in the last question when I asked you about the ingredients, you said that rosewood is very special to you. So this is the next question. With all your creations, I know they're all your babies, you love them all, but is there a particular fragrance that is closer to your heart or has maybe a deeper meaning or you're mostly proud of in all your 8 creations so far?
Oh my God, difficult to answer that question. I would probably say Desert Rosewood and Pacific Rock Moss. I mean, I remember when I created Pacific Rock Moss with my French perfumer here in Melbourne, we had a lot of discussions, and because we really, I mean, obviously working before, with Issey Miyake, brands like Issey Miyake, and where we work a lot with aquatic and marine scents. Obviously, it an aquatic scent was never part of a niche brand, I mean, and I remember in the beginning people were saying, "Oh my God, Dimitri, but an aquatic fragrance and a marine fragrance, it's not very niche, it's more mainstream." And I thought, why? I mean, of course we can create a beautiful niche fragrance, and that is aquatic and beautiful and distinct and different and unique and with a certain sillage, and we worked really hard on that one particular Pacific Rock Moss note, and that's probably what makes the fragrance so successful today. Because yes, it's an aquatic, yes, it's a marine scent, but you can't really smell the ozonic aggressive notes. So it's a fragrance that grows on your skin, and it develops by the hour. Um, and it's a different way of wearing an aquatic scent. And today we are very blessed. So I'm very proud and extremely happy about this fragrance. And yes, it's not like what people expect to be, an Aventus or whatever, but it was never meant to be. When you know Australia, you don't expect uh, a scent like that. You expect something more refined and more wearable, because it's just humid and it's hot and it's warm, and that's why.
And you should be very proud of Pacific Rock Moss because that particular fragrance really put Goldfield and Banks on the map. I mean, it was a fragrance that really gave Goldfield and Banks such, limelight in the fragrance community. People were talking about it, was making top lists. It was very hot for quite a while. So yeah, you should
I
definitely be proud.
know. I know, and it continues. I mean, ever since we launched Bohemian Lime, people start discovering Pacific Rock Moss again. And I think, the great thing, and especially in America, we really have a clientele that really loves Pacific Rock Moss and really is waiting for the summer to come or the springtime to come to purchase that fragrance and to wear it. Um, and you know what? And it's actually, you get a lot of compliments with that scent as well. Like my partner, he works for an airline, and every time he comes back home and he's like, "Oh my God, the number of people that ask me what am I wearing? It's Pacific Rock Moss." So it's a very pleasant fragrance, and we have a lot of things in mind for that fragrance as well. And yeah, we're super proud of that fragrance. Absolutely, it was a lot of hard work, and then it came out of nowhere. This whole big success, and so what social media can do sometimes. It's very funny. Um, but um, but but yeah, I think good things happen to good people. So I think I'm a good person.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you a question. So I know that the packaging has changed. So does
Mm.
that, because a lot of people in the fragrance community, they seem to, a red light goes off as soon as you see a different packaging, a different, cosmetics. People think, wow, I think it's been reformulated. So has it been reformulated? Like Pacific Rock Moss, the
Mm.
new packaging, is it the same formulation that we had, or is it a little different? Was it tweaked at all?
So the formulation is pretty much the same. The only thing that what we've done is we macerated longer than we used to. Um, which is obviously improves, the projection of the fragrance. And the only two ingredients that we have tweaked a little bit is geranium and the sage, because geranium and sage are the notes that actually give that saltiness to the scent. um, and and that's basically it. I mean, but the longer you macerate the fragrance, the better, especially with that type of scent. It's so key and it's so important. So for us, it was a matter of balancing it and just to see, what the result would be if we would macerate it longer, if we would mature the concentrate longer at first, and then tweak two ingredients, and that was basically it. Because obviously we also have, thousands of customers today that really want to have that original fragrance. We really wanted to make sure that the original scent would remain the same. It's just when the fragrance evolves on your skin, it will slightly be more, I would say, powerful, a little bit more balmy, more salty, probably, because we do listen to our customers as well. And we listen to people when people say, well, I want Pacific Rock Moss, but I wish it would last a little longer. Well, we also have to think about the thousands of other people that actually love it the way it is. So we can't just tweak a fragrance just like that. But then we tweaked it just a little bit, and that was basically it. And then obviously packaging evolves, packaging changes, but yeah, basically the fragrance remains the same. It probably is a little bit more
Better
um,
performance.
better performance, but again, we really don't want it to be too overpowering, because obviously, for all the reasons that I've given you before, is we live in
Gotcha.
warmer countries, and we have customers in Florida, we have customers in Texas, we have customers in California, and they don't want all these heavy fragrances as well. So, and then of course the rest of the world, London and Germany, and but so yeah, and then packaging obviously evolves. The box, we have changed the box as well, because some of the people were saying that it was an amazing and sexy, very sexy fragrance for men. But don't forget that Pacific Rock Moss is a absolutely gender neutral fragrance. So we had to balance the gender neutral aspect of the packaging, and that's the reason why we've changed the packaging, and it's great the way it is now. So we're very happy.
That's a very good point, and I always make sure to highlight that when I review Goldfield and Banks fragrances. The whole line, the whole portfolio, the whole spectrum of fragrances are very unisex, gender free, and androgynous. Either a
Mm.
man or a woman or whatever you into it, you can wear those fragrances perfectly because they're very well balanced. That's a very good point that you made. So I'm going to ask you another two-part question now, Dimitri. The first part of
Sure.
the question is, how do you view the niche industry today? What's the state of the niche world today, the niche perfumery world?
Mm.
And number two, what do you find to be the most challenging or the most difficult challenges that you find in the niche perfume world today?
Wow. So first of all, regarding the niche industry today, I mean, if I was if I would have stayed in Europe, let's put it that way. If I would have stayed in Europe, I would probably have never launched my own brand, because there is, the market is saturated. Everybody wants to release a brand. Everybody wants to create their own brand, and people don't realize what's behind it. To get to that point, to like we're very fortunate to have two fragrances that are now very successful. Bohemian and Pacific. But to get to that stage, we work so hard. There is a lot of money involved. There is a lot of risks. There is a lot of challenges involved. But if I would have stayed in Europe, I wouldn't have done it, because why? There are hundreds of French brands. There are hundreds of Italian brands. There are hundreds of American and British brands, and everybody claims to be the best and to use the best raw materials, and everything you hear. But the fact that I'm in Australia, and the fact that there was no Australian fragrance brand highlighting and celebrating this extraordinary beauty of the country and its botanical richness, I thought that was an opportunity, and that was more a love affair. I had a passion, and I envisioned it, and I was very obsessed with the idea of creating something in this country. So in my opinion, there are too many brands, obviously. There are, I mean, and it's all a bit, it's all becoming a bit too much. So I think COVID-19 will probably shift, and I think a lot of people will see the real brands that are sustainable and the brands um, that are
Gimmicky.
performing well and that are gimmicky, and the ones that really mean well, and the ones that are, the ones that have a potential and the ones that want to grow. So we hope to be part of that last category, because we work hard, and we have seen now with COVID-19, our brand has been extremely successful online. Even launching a fragrance in a pandemic period has proven very successful. So we have a following, and we really want to grow that community, and be very close to our customers. And so I think that's very important, because yeah, there's a lot of things involved in making a fragrance, and creating a fragrance brand. So with the niche, again, I think it's a matter of time. And I would just suggest, you know what, if you're not serious about it, just stay out of it, because it just kills the whole dream about, perfumery, and the dream about niche fragrances. Um, if you're, a French person, or an Italian person, why on earth would you launch a new brand today, in 2020? I think every single concept has been done, everything, you know what I mean? So,
Correct.
so that's probably my opinion, is yeah, there's a lot of, and there's still a lot of opportunities. Like, we don't hear much about a beautiful African brand, for instance. Scandinavian brands became very popular with Barredo, and um, and this. Why don't we see any African brand, for instance, a beautiful African brand? Can you imagine how colorful and how beautiful that would be? So there's still opportunities, but yeah, everybody wants to to have their part, and then it becomes very difficult for the retail um, spectrum. So retailers have to make choices, and they are overwhelmed with all newness and new brands. And so I can imagine, from a retail perspective, it must be very hard to choose, and it's challenging, but it's fine. It's a lot of hard work. It's a constant. It's a passion.
You got to love what you do. I agree. Another
Uh,
two-part question here. So, what are the future goals for Goldfield and Banks? So, where do you see Goldfield and Banks in another 5, 10 years? And how do you see the future of Goldfield and Banks with the fragrance community? What kind of a role do you think the fragrance community plays with Goldfield and Banks? And how do you see yourself, in the fragrance community? And again, the future
hmm.
of Goldfield and Banks the next 5, 10 years, where do you see the brand?
Well, I'll start answering your last question, because I think it's a very interesting question. What I do feel today, what makes me very proud today, is that we have so many people discovering and telling us and writing us emails and messages on Instagram, and every day people are asking us and saying, you know what, we've learned something new. And this is what, I've been in training and communication for all these years. And this is probably the most rewarding part for me, is that I educate people, and I initiate customers, and people in with new ingredients, new things from Australia. And I think this is something that hasn't been done before in our industry. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the fact that now people discover, and even Australians, can you imagine? Even local people still discover every single day. They say, well, you know what? We didn't even know that, Bologna existed in an absolute. We didn't know that sandalwood was from Western Australia. And this is what Goldfield and Banks is all about. And this is really what we want to do, is we really want to go further in that, is to develop and to dig further into those native Australian ingredients, and also dig into those new ingredients that are harvested and produced here, in a very sustainable way. So you probably have noticed we don't over invest in big packagings and stuff like that. because we really want to keep it simple design. It's all about the fragrance by the end of the day. You know, when you buy a piece of clothing, it's all about the fabric and the design. Well, with the fragrance, it's about the scent and and about the emotion. So that sustainability, those ingredients are very important. And then to answer to your question with regards to the future of the brand, well, today we are in a quite good position, obviously, because we have, we are growing and we are little by little establishing the brand as probably the first well-established Australian fragrance brand, featuring all those Australian ingredients and really celebrating with lots of colors. And we've got things that we're working on for the future, for the next 2-3 years, with different themes. And it's endless. There's so many beautiful things to develop in this country. Obviously, I can't tell you more because this would probably be off the
Sure.
record. Um, but there are so many amazing things to develop here, and we can't wait. So establishing our brand as an Australian fragrance brand, and then obviously, in retail we are expanding with fit outs and back walls and yeah, little by little, but very very exclusive. We keep it very tight. We keep it very small, um, and yeah. So the future will tell us what will happen.
Can we expect to see Goldfield and Banks releasing flankers, perhaps like a, Pacific Rock Moss Intense? Are we, in the future, can we expect flankers? Are we getting into the flankers with Goldfield and Banks, or
Mm.
only original creations? What do you think about that?
No, only original creations so far with different sizes. Yeah, we're working on different sizes because obviously that's what people have been asking us for. But how I wouldn't necessarily create a Pacific Rockmos Intense because Pacific Rockmos is what it is. It's that's if you'd see the formula, it's so good, so well done that it would be very hard for us to actually even imagine a new creation that would be more intense. It would sort of kill the mystery around Pacific Rockmos, I think. But if that's something that people would ask us for, why not? But for the moment, we haven't had that request so far. Maybe once in a while, we have someone asking, "Oh, would you, create or launch an intense version?" But not for the moment. But what we would like to do is obviously have Pacific Rockmos in a shower gel or a bath oil and a soap, and that would be amazing.
That's
Yeah,
a great
because
idea.
or Bohemian Lime. Can you imagine? Look, I've got it
Wow.
here.
Shower
Yeah.
gel, soap, absolutely. I would love that.
Because Australia is so open and it's about the sun and it's about um yeah, it's about blue skies and about tropics
Yeah,
and plants and all that. So it makes sense, right?
absolutely. So now let's get a little more personal with Dimitri. Your most intense, earliest fragrance memories. It could be something that you smell for the first time and just blew your mind, or fragrances that are very
Mm.
fun to your heart, memories like childhood memories, just earliest found, fragrant memories that you can share with us.
Well, the fragrance of my mom, obviously. She wore Nina by Nina Ricci. Not sure if you're familiar with that brand. But yeah, her scent, she wore Paris by YSL for many, many years. So I still link the scent to my mom. But I would probably say, and I still kept the vial, one of my best memories is we were in Paris with my parents, and one of our neighbors gave me a small vial of Giacomo. Do you remember that brand, Giacomo?
Giacomo, of course.
The initial one, Giacomo di Giacomo, it was a black with blue
I think I
lettering.
still have it. I think I have that scent.
Well, she gave me that little sample and I kept it. I have it somewhere in my apartment here.
How old were
Um,
you?
oh dear, I was very young, very young. I must have been 10, 11,
That's
probably.
incredible that you still still have it. That's amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, I know. And also at school, like even my teachers at school would ask me, what type of fragrance should I wear? And they were swapping with samples. I was a young kid, and I was, oh my God, a sample of Chanel or whatever back in those days would make me so happy and so excited. And you know what? The great thing is that even today, I'm still excited when I discover new samples
Wow.
at 45, So
Oh, it
yeah,
never ends. The journey never ends.
no,
So let's
exactly.
talk about noses. You've worked with a lot of great fragrance perfumers.
Mm.
Can you maybe name some of your favorite noses in the industry and perhaps some of the ones that you would still love to work with that you haven't yet worked with?
Yeah, I personally love Olivier Crespe's work. I think he's an absolutely fascinating man, like him. Nathalie Laurson as well. They're beautiful people, um, very creative, and at the same time, yeah, they're very rock and roll. I'd love to work with them. I should approach them for some of the projects, but one of the perfumers that I really like as well is Hamid Merati Kashani,
Sure. Marley?
who actually created my wood infusion. So, because in my opinion, he is the best oud, agarwood perfumer because he balances things very well. Um,
Is he going to be
I like
working
his
with your
work.
new creations, the new oud creations that you're working on right now? Is it going to be Hamid?
Well, he's in the pitch, that's for sure. Um, He's in the pitch. Yeah. So there's a few other people, but definitely. And then we have, I recently discovered the work of the very young and talented Amélie Jacquin from Givaudan, who created with me Bohemian Lime. It's been a challenge, I mean, Bohemian Lime, because it was a lot of trial and error but she ended up understanding what I wanted and um, how I would create and assemble the formula. So that was a great partnership, and I so much love these people at Givaudan. They are so supportive, and we've known these people for so many years. I mean, after 25 years of career, obviously you know where the quality is, and you know where the expertise is, and that's what it's all about. So. Yeah, other than that, I mean, obviously, we all love the work of Olivier Pecheux, and um, yeah,
Cool.
that's
All right, we're
basically
getting
it.
close to the end here. I'm going to ask you this question here. Can you name
Sorry,
5
Olivier Polge. I was wrong. Olivier Polge, and I was going to say
Olivier
Pecheux
Poge
from
from
Pecheux.
Chanel?
Olivier Polge. Yes, 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 of course. I mean,
So
his
we're getting
work.
near the end, Dimitri. I want to ask you to name 5 fragrances, your top 5 fragrances of all time. So when you remember being a kid to becoming a
Okay.
teenager and a young adult, give me 5
Hmm,
fragrances that were
hmm.
detrimental to your taste, 5 groundbreaking trendsetters, whatever. 5 fragrances that are the best, in your opinion, ever created.
Right, okay. I would say the original Chalimar from Guerlain. My first girlfriend, we were together for 3 years. She wore Chalimar. She was very Parisian. She wore Chalimar. Beautiful fragrance. I would say definitely Serge Lutin's Féminité du Bois, an absolute masterpiece. Love that fragrance. Have great memories. Yeah, so that's the second one. The third one, oh my God, that's actually very difficult. I absolutely love the extract of cocoa by Chanel. It's very baroque. It's extremely rich and incense and woody and oriental, and absolutely love that fragrance. Um, what else? Oh my God, this is a tricky one. Um, there is Oh my God. Probably my one of the fragrances that I have with me always and always and always is Eau Sauvage. Fresh, classic, clean, citrusy, coumarine, um, beautiful scent. Eau Sauvage, and then a fifth one. but I have to think now. Fifth one. I would probably go for. Um, can I name one of my fragrances?
Or
Bohemian Lime. I think it's probably such a great fragrance. So I would probably say those five.
fair enough. All right, so we're getting towards the end here, and this is going to be the rapid fire segment on the Max Forti Chat, which is a series of quick questions, which I want you ask as quick as you can. Don't think too much. This is a chance and
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for viewers and fans to get to know Dimitri a little bit better. So,
Right.
describe Dimitri, the person, in 3 or less words.
Joyful. Um, Loyal. And hard worker.
Fair enough. Favorite color.
Blue.
A favorite place.
A small town in south of France called Bormes-les-Mimosas
What was the name
in
of
the
the town again?
Provence. Bormes-les-Mimosas in the Provence, a small town. It's probably
Okay.
my favorite spot.
A
Absolutely.
favorite dish or food.
Um, so many pancakes. I love pancakes. I'm not
Okay.
eating any pancakes for the moment because I'm on a diet, but I love pancakes. Definitely.
A drink of choice.
Gin and tonic.
A hobby, other than fragrance, of course.
Swimming in the ocean.
What turns you off? A pet peeve of yours.
Injustice.
If you weren't a perfumer or a creative director involved in perfume in any shape, way, or form, what would you be professionally?
A dancer. I always dreamed as a child to become a dancer. I don't know. Yeah, classical dancer. Yeah, that's what I wanted to
Nice.
do.
If you had one superpower, if you could have one superpower, what would that power be?
To bring peace on this planet, for God's sake.
Oh, that's very nice. If you were an animal, what would that animal be?
A bird.
Oh, very nice. And last but not least, if you were confined to wearing just one fragrance for the rest of your life, what would that fragrance be? You could only wear one fragrance from now until the end of times. What would that fragrance be?
Bohemian Lime.
Wow. All right. So, in closing, tell the fragrance world something that you'd like to share with them. You know, any parting gifts, any news, announcements, anything you have going on in your life, perhaps you'd like to share with your listeners right now. The floor is yours. The mic is yours. Say your goodbyes.
Well, I would just like to say thank you so much to all of you that are listening, that have been following us. It's been a great journey, and you know what? The journey, it's only the beginning of the journey, and I wouldn't have been able to do this journey without you guys. I mean, without all the people and all the people out there, and the perfume experts and the perfume junkies and all of that. We just love it. It's such a great community. And yeah, I just can't wait to continue and to come up with something new and to share it with you and to see you all again. And yeah, I would just say a big thank you. Like that's what comes up in my mind right now is I'm very blessed, and all of this is all thanks to you guys. Like yeah, the universe. And then once again, I do believe that good things happen to good people. So yeah.
100%, Dimitri. I agree with you. The universe conspires for good. Good comes to good. 100%. On that
Mm.
note, I want to thank everyone for being here with us today, for hanging out, listening to the Max Forti Chat. Dimitri, thanks very much for taking time to being here with us and sharing your wonderful creations and yourself and about your brand with us here today. Guys, stay tuned for a lot more. And of course, as always, let's unite, let's stay together, let's bring peace and be kind to one another and wear what truly moves you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you again real soon. Take care.